So, yes, to go back to what we were saying. We went live with our minimum viable platform in December 2023, and we've been sort of like busy, moving at quite a pace actually since then. And so actually, we have a long list of things we got wrong because we're moving at quite some pace, and we do have a principle of regularly inspecting and having retrospectives about can we make things better. So, which is why we could fill a number of presentations, but we've selected some of the top things that we got wrong, because we have benefited as Stream by learning from other people's experience. Nick has been very kind with her time, sharing what's gone on in the North Sea Transition Authority, and I've spoken previously with Jack about sort of Open Data Scotland, and sort of we learn from other people, and so we just want to give back what we've learned as well to this community, if it's of any value to you. So just a quick overview on who is Stream. So Stream is 16 out of the 18 major UK water companies. It's a collaborative initiative, so nobody is making us do this. We're doing this as a collaboration. It really started with sort of the open data movement with a number of water companies, and we kind of basically said it's better that we do this together as a sector rather than do this individually. So we started with 8 members convened by Northumbrian Water, and it's since grown to 16. We hope one day it will be everybody on board. We're working on it. But we also work with a number of partners who, such as the Open Data Institute, Icebreaker One, and a number of other technical and specialist partners to support the water companies in doing what we're doing. So just a bit of a potted history. Actually, we started the conversation back in April 2020, and that was when there was about 8 of us in the room, just saying, actually, we think we should do this together. And that period between that and getting funding to actually do something was actually painfully long. We got the funding in, I think it was 2022, to actually think about how might we do this together, and then we got subsequent funding, and this has all been innovation funding, and it really struck a chord with me if you're in the plenary sessions around how innovation helps to bootstrap things, but actually when you get to a certain stage you need funding to maintain these as well. So we're still very much in the sort of that bootstrapping implementation sort of phase now. We received funding last August to deliver the product effectively, to make it real. And by the December, we were able to stand up a minimum viable platform. And that really was to enable us to test our end-to-end processes. Could we actually get water companies together to agree a standard to publish some data to, and actually was it published in a way that was useful to people who wanted to use it? And then we took all the learning from that, and then launched our final sort of like our enduring platform. That's not final because it keeps evolving. But we launched our enduring platform on the end of April last year. And like I say, we've been very busy working together as those 16 companies and those 7 partners who are supporting us. We also have the regulators involved, so Ofwat, Consumer Council for Water, so they represent the customer. We also have the Environment Agency, our environmental regulator. We're hoping at some stage we'll have the ICO in there as well as observers to what we're actually doing as a sector. In November, we probably launched our most significant, I mean, Andrew's going to come and go on to talk about this, but launched our most significant product, our data product, which was the National Storm Overflows Hub. So unless you've been under a rock for the past sort of 12 or so months, the topic of storm overflows has really hit the headlines. And we believed at Stream actually transparency around the data would be helpful. And it wouldn't be just helpful for trust and transparency, actually it would be helpful to drive innovation to help solve that challenge. So we were very keen to take part and be part of the solution in terms of publishing standardized event data, not historical data, but event data, real-time event data of what's going on where. And that was published at the end of November last year. And then I think our icing on the cake has been being awarded the Open Data Award by Open UK last December, I think it was. We're currently working on some very exciting use cases, looking at how can we build on the back of the National Storm Overflow Hub and put more environmental data, more operational data out into the sort of public domain to enable innovators. We know that there's lots of people innovating, building models to help solve some of these challenges, and we believe some of them are so systems-based that we need to get data together with other data and people together with other people to solve some of these challenges together. No single sector can solve them alone. So that's a bit of a potted history about where we're at with Stream. And I'm just going to hand over to Andrew now to talk about some of the first things we got wrong.
Yeah, so we felt it was useful to come along this year. So we were here last year, we were talking about all the great things we were going to be doing. But this year we thought it was really useful to come along and tell you some of the lessons that we'd learned along the way and some of the challenges that we've had. So I guess where we were at this conference last year was we were just about to start getting some data sets out there. And that was one real key thing that we had an awful lot of discussion around as a project team. It was, how do we go from not having done anything to actually get us over the line to becoming a data publishing institution, to get the water companies over that barrier. And there was lots of challenge there amongst the different participating companies and some of the external advice on how do you go about that? Do you go for the really big hitting use case that's going to make a really big difference and be a game changer, one you can stand up and be proud of and really sort of demonstrate the value of? Or do you actually go for some really low-hanging fruit of stuff that's readily available that you can try and get over the line? And I think there was an awful lot of hand-wringing over what route we take with that first stage. In the end, we kind of took the easy route and went for some low-hanging fruit. We felt that we would learn enough from doing that and demonstrate some progress, but equally it felt slightly underwhelming when you're telling people, look, we've built this amazing platform and there's some data that was already kind of available and most of it's just some CSV files that we uploaded, but look, we've done open data. But since then, we've kind of tried to learn from that, and we've tried to see actually, we've demonstrated some progress, we've demonstrated that we can do that, we've got over that barrier of just getting someone to press the publish button. That's enabled us to then go on this journey and to enable us to try and work on some much more sort of high value use cases. But I think there was an awful lot of time and effort went into getting us to that point where we could even just make that decision on, let's go. And there was a bit of flack that we took for kind of going with that low-hanging fruit. Although saying that, some of those use cases, those data sets we released have actually been really useful. Things like really simple spatial file of water company boundaries has actually been one of the most downloaded data sets that we've got on the platform. So, it was a quick one to get out there, but at least it has been proved useful. So going from lack of ambition, our next kind of banana skin was probably a bit too much ambition, possibly a bit too much too soon. But it was an opportunity that came along that we felt that we had to act on, and we were probably reasonably well placed at this point. Again, pretty much about 12 months ago, that we made the call of, okay, we'll try and help you with this project. And this was about getting real-time storm overflow data published nationally, published on an open license with a standard schema, so that we can build our own visualization tool and national map, but also anyone else can use the data sets behind this. So you can connect to the API, you can pull that data down, build your own data products, build your own analytics on the back of this. But wow, it was a big challenge. It was a huge, high-profile project. We were really immature at the time. You know, the stuff we'd done before was pretty much all file-based, centrally uploaded. Suddenly going to a decentralized API-based approach. All of the water companies had done work in this space already. They'd already started building their own data products, their own data maps. We're now saying we want you to standardize. That's really tricky. You know, someone's going to have to do some work on this. Someone's going to have to change from what they thought was the ideal way to do this to get to the standard approach. So lots of hard yards, lots of workshops, but you know, eventually we kind of got there. And then you get to all the difficulties around the publicity, around all of the potential for negative connotations, the worry about what are people going to do once they can get their hands on the data. You know, companies had kind of published maps and people can look at it and see what it's doing right now. But actually, what's going to happen when people can get their hands on the data and they can start doing their own analytics on it? So we probably spent more time on the Q&A page than we did on the actual data. Because, you know, there was so much concern about getting this right and getting the messaging right about this. And actually, it's landed incredibly well. So I think it was a very challenging use case, and it was definitely one that we kind of possibly underestimated how much time and effort it was going to take to get this one over the line. But I think we're actually pretty proud of it now that we got there, that we got this one over the line, and we got this delivered. And the feedback that we've had from people using this, people that have typically been pretty negative about the water sector, have now been able to use this data set and build their own data products, build their own analytics on it, build it into their own existing apps and maps that they've got for people that regularly use those water courses. So, you know, generally speaking, considering, you know, how much bad press there has been in the water sector, the stuff that we've heard back from this and the feedback we've had has been really positive. So yeah, it's kind of started as a negative, but we've kind of turned it around, I would say.
The boundary data set is still more popular than that one, though. I'm just going to talk about governance, because I think this has been and continues to be a very tricky area to navigate. So like I said, we've got 16 water companies as members, so that's 16 voices, that's 16 different views, that's 16 levels of capability, because everyone's at different place of level of capability and ambition. And so, you know, governance is a tricky path to navigate when you're having to that many people with that many opinions, and actually some with no opinion at all as members. So, I mean, one of the first things we probably got wrong was who gets to vote and how many votes do you have? Because Northumbrian Water has two operating areas. It's got Northumbrian Water up in the northeast, and it's got Essex and Suffolk Water down in the south. Does that mean they get 2 votes or 1? And it was kind of like, and actually it was only until we kind of came to some really critical votes that we actually thought, actually we need to bottom this out so everybody's clear about how many votes and what casts a decision. And so we kind of like went back to the drawing board, and that was probably about 3 or 4 months into sort of operating that we realised we really needed to nail that, get that sorted so everybody was clear who had a voice. Voting was also a bit of a challenge, because we kind of like, we asked people to vote in a meeting, and if people were like, well, I need to go and talk to some stakeholders. So we allowed them to kind of go away and sort of like have this discussion back in their own organisations, to come back and have, to convey their decision. of course, they didn't come back. And so we had this job of like chasing down decisions, and that was really adding treacle into the process. So we kind of refined how we vote on things. And part of that is like how much information we give people, to give them the time to go and have those discussions within their own organisations, to come back to this specific time, this specific meeting with a decision. We're still not there yet, but it can really slow down progress if you can't make those decisions in good time. One of the other things was, balancing risk and assurance, the need for control and risk assurance and decisions. And now we've moved from, so when we were initially standing everything up, we were very definitely in project mode. We're now beyond that, and we're into kind of almost a bit like a startup mode, because we're in operation. And the decision making, the speed at which we need to make some decisions is a lot quicker now, but without all the wrapper of a program and work streams and things like that. And so we're kind of in that constantly evolving mode where we need to adapt our governance. And we've had some issues about having that adaptability, because we were making decisions like this. We now need to make them like this, and it will continue to change as we evolve. So needing to have adaptable governance processes. We also have advisory groups, and we're still, I think, learning how to use those advisory groups to the best. Is like, does everything need to go to an advisory group, or just the things that we determine need to go to an advisory group? And what's the right level, and who's the right people to be around that table? Because they're very open groups. Anybody can become a member of our advisory groups, and we have one which advises on market needs and use cases, and one which advises on technical matters. And so we're still really learning about how to use those advisory functions to the best, to support good decision making at the steering group level. Moving on to the last kind of area that we've had some huge learning on, is it isn't all about the data. It's so much more about the people. And I think we knew that there was a change piece associated with this, getting 16 water companies to kind of act as one, but knowing that they're all at different levels of maturity and ambition, etc. But we vastly underestimated it. And so we brought in change specialists to help with that, because we needed to sort of like really understand where organisations were, and then put in place measures to make sure that we could support the people who needed the support the most. And that varies depending on what aspect of open data or shared data you're looking at. As Andrew said, you know, when it came to APIs, some companies were like, we're fine with that, but other companies really needed hand-holding. So we had to put a lot of effort into understanding where people are at, and then supporting them when they needed that support. One of the other things that is a constant challenge is like, you can't take for granted that everybody is still on board. It waxes and wanes all the time, and so you can't take the fact that you haven't heard from someone, or they haven't been to some meetings, as like they're okay, everything's ticking along nicely. You have to go and understand where they're at. Are they getting pressure from their board, or so we need to make sure that we're having that constant dialogue, and we've learnt that is so critical, to make sure we're checking in with each individual member company. Are they comfortable with everything that's going on? And then data quality and standardisation. We never wanted data quality to be a barrier to publication, because he said, just get it out there, because actually it's better to get it out there and get eyes on it, and don't wait till you've got perfect data, because it will never happen. But I think there were a few own goals that we could have probably done a little bit more assurance on certain data sets before they went out there. And so we're looking at that now and say, how can we be better about how we conform to the standards? If we've gone to the effort of setting a standard and agreeing a standard, then checking that we're all adhering to that standard, closely enough, is a piece of work that we're doing at the moment. And then learning how to publish more for AI as well. So we've had some useful feedback from users about that. So we've probably got that wrong to start with, but we're learning. I'm going to hand back to Andrew now.
Okay. So now on to some slightly more positive. So we are live, we have the platform, we have the National Storm Overflow Hub, we have over 100 data sets on the platform now that people are actively engaging with and working on, and we've got a community in place so people are actually, have the ability to contribute, to ask questions, to get in touch with us, very active on LinkedIn, so I would say generally speaking, from where we were this time last year, we've made some huge strides, and we're really, really proud of what we've done. And there's also a link there if people are interested in helping out in the research that we're doing around our next use case. We also have quite ambitious plans for the next few years. So we're looking at how we set our team up in a structured way for the future and make sure that we're well structured. We're looking to enable citizen scientists to contribute to the platform, so looking at participatory data and how we can make that available. We're looking at cross-sector use cases, so potentially with sectors like energy that are adjacent, to see where we can bring those data sets together. And then longer term, we're looking to develop a path to become a data institution so that we're no longer just a project that's run by a few water companies kind of getting together, but to actually become a kind of recognized data institution that can stand on its own 2 feet. So that's kind of where we see ourselves, and those are the kind of timeframes that we're looking at. So, hopefully by around, 2 or 3 years' time, we should hopefully be in that position where we're mature, we're stable, and we're on a firm footing for the future. Just getting a warning about beer time soon, so we'll move on to celebrating our successes. I just saw this photo the other day on the Open UK website. That's how surprised I was that we won the award. I completely thought you had it nailed, Nick, and we were there as kind of proud runners-up when I saw all the things you guys have achieved. So I was absolutely over the moon to be there to represent that and take the Open Data Award. That was a huge kind of encouragement for us that we're on the right track. So yeah, thank you so much for Open UK. And if we have 2 seconds left, we can answer any questions, but I appreciate people are quite keen to get beer tokens. The link there is to the platform as well, if anyone wants to have a look at the data that's available.
You can probably predict the question I'm going to come up with. So lots of initiatives like this, and you've talked about it. Is it a project? Is it going to be something bigger than that? Is it going to become a data institution? All of that needs to consider sort of the sustainability. And I'm talking about obviously everything about it needs to be sustained, but actually the financial sustainability of it. So I suppose my question is, there's different models you can explore, which could be sort of contributions from the water sector themselves. Do you feel that there is a requirement for Ofwat to continue to sort of support the funding of this initiative in the long run in collaboration with the water companies? Or have you thought of any other sustainability options?
So we've absolutely thought about the sustainability, and we're looking to make it as lean as we can to give us the most options for different routes to keep us going longer term. Currently, we've had quite a lot of innovation funding to get us over that first hump of just getting established to kind of bolster the team and enable us to get the platform in place. We've now reduced that down to be a much more lean organisation. We're using a lot of volunteers from water companies to do a lot of the activities, so we are keeping the costs as low as we can. We've just submitted a bid for some further funding to get us over this next few-year period, so we're hopeful that we'll be successful in that, but it's a much lower level than the funding that we had initially to get set up. And then we expect there to continue to be water company contributions because the water companies are getting a lot out from it. So we don't expect to ever go, okay, we'll get all our money centrally, but certainly we could look into Ofwat funding, especially given the work that they are looking to do in the open data space anyway.
And I think we're also looking at how do we, who are the beneficiaries and sort of where does the funding come associated with that? And actually our job over the next 3 years is to prove that value case time and time again. That's got to be our focus, because if we can tell the story about how it's adding value to UK research or the UK water sector or to the environment, then it becomes so much easier. The conversation goes away from like who's funding it to where are you going next and how can we support this. So I do think there is a case, because we're supporting other innovation initiatives now, because if they're data-based initiatives, then we can help where it comes to accessing standardised water sector data. I do think there is probably an enabling piece that should perhaps be funded still from the Innovation Fund, because if it's an enabler to other innovations, then again, they're beneficiaries.
Excuse me. I'm Tushar Sethi. I work in computational hydrology. What kind of data are you working with? Is it storm drain discharge and effluent discharge data, and that's it? Or are you looking at stream flow in the natural environment as well?
So we've got a huge range of data on there on a number of use cases. So we've got drinking water quality data, we've got consumption data, we've got storm, we've got discharges from combined sewer overflows, the live data sets available. We've got historic annual performance data on there, so people can see how the companies are preparing, sort of comparing with each other on the key metrics. So yeah, a number of data sets and a huge list in our use case backlog that we're actively prioritizing and working through.
Do you have any problems with ungauged locations downstream of these discharge points?
With what, sorry?
With ungauged locations downstream of the discharge points?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so we're looking to see what we can do with pulling data from anyone else who has data in those areas, so whether that's citizen scientists, whether that's Environment Agency data. But the more of this data that's environmental we can make open, you enable everyone to use each other's data and get that full picture of the catchment, because it's one where no one has the full picture for that. Everyone has a piece of the jigsaw, and if everyone can get that data published openly on an open license, then that gives us the best chance of building the models that allow us to solve that problem.
All right. I think we're out of time now, but thank you very much. Andrew and Melissa, thanks again.